Paris, the city of love, glitters under the glow of 1,000 lights. But behind the beauty and romance, secrets stir. For the Crawley family, Paris is not just a backdrop of charm, it is the final stage where choices of love, power, and legacy must be made. What begins as a family's visit to the heart of Europe quickly becomes the grand finale of a story that has captivated for generations. Here in this city, where every corner whispers history and every glance holds a promise, the Crawleys will face their last and greatest test. The story opens with a slow sweep of a Parisian morning. The golden sun rises over the river Seine, turning the waters into a mirror of fire. Carriages and motorcars move along cobbled streets, and the Eiffel Tower casts its shadow over a city waking to life. Paris is alive with music, footsteps, and the faint perfume of roses sold by street vendors. It is a city that never stops breathing romance, and into this world, the Crawley family arrives. Stepping out of their past and into a new chapter, the narrator's voice leads us through their journey. For Lady Mary, Paris is a place where she hopes to escape the heavy weight of duty. She looks out of the carriage window, her eyes fixed on the grand boulevards, yet her mind is restless. Lady Edith carries a softer smile. One touched by memories of love and art, she remembers the city from years past, and now it greets her like an old companion. Tom Branson, once a chauffeur, now a man of influence, feels the heartbeat of Paris in a different way. It promises freedom, perhaps a new beginning, but also tempts him with decisions that could tear him from the roots he has grown to protect. But they are not alone. Carson, ever the loyal butler, steps off the train with his usual calm. Though his eyes betray a concern that never rests, Mrs. Hughes stands beside him, watchful and warm, carrying the spirit of home even in a foreign land. Anna and Bates, bound together by love, tested through hardship, feel the city's romance calling to them, though they too know that even beauty can hide dangers. As the family carriages move through Paris, the narrator hints that this journey is more than a holiday. Paris will not only dazzle them with its lights and elegance, but also challenge them with questions they cannot ignore. What is duty without love? What is love without sacrifice? What is family when the world around them is changing faster than the heart can keep pace? The sequence builds with images of Parisian life. Artists painting along the Seine, couples laughing at cafes, dancers practicing in hidden studios. The Crawleys, dressed in the finest of attire, seem almost like visitors from another time, yet they are pulled into the rhythm of the city. Their story will not end in the safety of Downton's halls, but here, in a city that demands passion and truth. The narrator closes this section with a quiet but powerful line, "In Paris, every choice matters," and for the Crawleys, the final curtain has already begun to rise. The train's whistle fades into the Parisian air, and with it, the Crawley family steps into a world far brighter, yet far less certain than the quiet grounds of Downton. Paris greets them with laughter and chatter, the voices of strangers mingling in languages that feel like poetry. One by one, familiar faces appear, though each carries something new in their expression, something the city itself seems to pull from them. Lady Mary is the first to draw our eyes. Her beauty is undeniable, but it is her guarded stare that lingers. She has always been the one who carries the family's weight on her shoulders, the one who must hold steady when others falter. Yet here in Paris, a trace of vulnerability escapes her. Her gloved hand lingers against the window of the carriage, as if she longs to touch the life outside. A life that promises passion, escape, and perhaps the kind of love she has always denied herself. Close behind is Lady Edith, stepping onto the platform with an energy that belongs to an artist, not a countess. Paris is always called to her heart, for it is a city that celebrates what she cherishes most: words, art, and love beyond convention. Her eyes search the crowd, perhaps for a familiar figure, or perhaps for the inspiration she once lost. The city seems to recognize her longings, welcoming her with the scent of fresh ink and paint that drifts from the cafes and studios nearby. Tom Branson follows, his presence steady, though his heart is anything but calm. Once an outsider at Downton, he is now family, but Paris awakens something different in him. The air stirs his spirit of rebellion, reminding him of the man who once dreamed of changing the world. His steps are slower, his gaze sharper, as though every face in the crowd offers him a choice: to remain tied to the Crawleys, or to find freedom in a life of his own making. Behind the family, loyal figures appear, their footsteps softer, but no less important. Carson, the butler who has given his life to duty, looks around with disapproval hidden beneath courtesy. Paris is too loud, too free, too unrestrained for his liking, and yet he knows that even he cannot shield the Crawleys from its temptations. Beside him, Mrs. Hughes walks with calm dignity, her eyes softer, wiser, as if she senses that Paris will not just change the family, but reshape them forever. Anna and Bates are the final pair to step into the light. Their love has endured storms, and yet, in this city of romance, they find themselves oddly unsettled. Paris whispers promises of renewal, but also stirs memories of struggle, of secrets long buried. Anna holds Bates's arm a little tighter, and he, in turn, watches her with the quiet devotion of a man who knows love is never simple. Together they move into the city, yet apart in their hearts. Each one carries a story waiting to be written, and Paris will write it in ink bold and unyielding. The narrator reminds us, these are not the same Crawleys who once walked the halls of Downton Abbey, here in Paris. They are strangers to themselves, and before the journey ends, each will have to face a truth that can no longer be hidden. The streets of Paris glow with lamplight as evening falls, and it is in this glow that the Crawleys find themselves entangled in the quiet storm of the heart. Love has always been a complicated matter within their walls, but in Paris, love becomes a demand. The city does not allow half measures, it demands passion, honesty, and sacrifice. Lady Mary walks alone one evening, her footsteps echoing on the stone paths near the Seine. For once, there is no family to watch, no eyes of Downton to weigh her every move. The air is soft, the city alive, and then, across the bridge, a figure catches her gaze. He is not of her world an artist, unknown to her life of duty, but his eyes linger on her in a way no man of her station ever has. Mary turns away, yet she feels his gaze follow her, as though Paris itself has chosen to test the walls she has so carefully built. In her silence there is a battle. Love as freedom, or duty as chains. For Lady Edith, Paris awakens something far deeper, something she thought lost. She walks through the boulevards with her husband at her side. And though their marriage has been marked by shadows, the city breathes life back into it. Edith finds herself standing before galleries, where colors speak louder than words, where canvases tell stories of women who refuse to be silent. She sees herself in those strokes of paint. A woman once dismissed, but now reborn in the city of art, in Paris. She is not simply a Crawley, she is Edith, a writer, a lover, a woman unafraid. Tom Branson's story, however, moves with a sharper edge. At a crowded cafe, his laughter mingles with that of strangers. Among them is a woman, French-born, with fire in her words and courage in her smile. She speaks of freedom, of futures that do not bow to titles or old names. With her, Tom feels both the man he was and the man he could become. But love here is not without danger, for to choose her would be to turn his back on Downton, step into a future that may leave the Crawleys behind. His heart pounds with the question, is it betrayal to seek happiness, or is it betrayal to deny it? Even Anna and Bates, whose love has been tested more than most, feel the city's pull. They walk through the narrow lanes of Montmartre, where music drifts from hidden taverns. Anna feels the warmth of Bates's hand. But she also feels a stirring in her chest, longing for a life less bound by shadows. Bates sees it too, though he says nothing, and for the first time, silence lies between them, heavier than words. The narrator whispers over these threads of love. Paris does not offer easy answers. It tempts, it tests, it reveals. For Mary, Edith, Tom, Anna, and even Bates, love is no longer a matter of chance. It is a question of courage. And soon, each must decide. Will they risk everything for love? Or will they let it slip into memory as the city of Paris passes them by? Paris may shine with beauty, but behind the glitter of chandeliers and the charm of cobbled lanes, the city keeps its secrets. And now, those secrets reach for the Crawleys like hands from the dark. For every moment of laughter, there is a whisper of scandal. For every new beginning, there is the shadow of an ending. It begins quietly, as all dangerous things do. A letter slips into Lady Mary's hands, sealed with the crest of a French nobleman. Its words are sharp, almost threatening, reminding her of an old agreement made long before her arrival, an agreement that ties Downton's fortune to a French estate. If revealed, this connection could not only ruin her, but stain the family name. She holds the letter close, her face unreadable, but inside her heart beats with dread. Was Paris ever about romance? Or was it always about power? Lady Edith faces her own unease. At a dinner hosted by her husband's acquaintances, she overhears a conversation, her name spoken in hushed tones, her marriage questioned with sly glances. Rumors swirl that her past mistakes, once thought buried, have found new breath in Paris. A child once hidden, a love once lost, Paris has long memories. And its society spares no mercy for women who defy its rules. Edith smiles through it all, but her eyes grow heavy, for she knows reputations here can shatter with a single whisper. Tom Branson, too, cannot escape conflict. His evenings with the fiery Frenchwoman do not go unnoticed. Within the Crawley circle, murmurs begin. Can a man who once rose from chauffeur to family ever hope to choose love that risks scandal? Carson, stern as ever, warns him quietly that Downton's name cannot weather another controversy. Tom listens, but his heart rebels, for Paris offers him more than romance. It offers him freedom. Yet freedom, he learns, often comes with a price. Even the servants are not spared. Anna discovers a letter tucked beneath her chamber door, unsigned, but carrying words that pierce her soul. Someone in Paris knows of her past, knows the struggles she thought she had left behind in England. Bates, ever watchful, senses danger closing in, though he cannot yet see from where. Together, they walk the boulevards with forced calm. But both know that their love is once again a target. The narrator reminds us, Paris does not forgive. Every scandal becomes a story, every secret a weapon. And in this city, where walls have ears and rivals wear smiles, the Crawleys find themselves caught in a delicate game. To protect their love, their name, and their future, they must step carefully, for one misstep, one secret unveiled, could turn their final chapter into ruin. The night of the ball arrives, and Paris itself seems to hold its breath. Carriages line the gates of a grand palace on the banks of the Seine, their wheels glinting in the moonlight. Music floats into the night air, violins swelling, a waltz echoing across the gardens. Guests in silk gowns and polished uniforms drift into the palace, their laughter sharp, their eyes hungry for spectacle. But tonight, it is not the gowns or the jewels that will dazzle them. Tonight, the Crawleys themselves will become the story. Lady Mary enters first, her gown of deep silver shimmering like moonlight. The room quiets for a heartbeat, and in that silence, her every step feels heavier. The artist she encountered by the Seine is there waiting, his gaze burning across the room. For Mary, every glance toward him is a war against her duty. The French nobleman who sent the letter watches too, his eyes narrowing, as though he knows her secret and intends to expose it before the night ends. Lady Edith moves gracefully beside her husband. Though her eyes are sharp, searching, she sees women whisper behind gloved hands, men smirking at her name. She knows her reputation trembles on the edge of collapse. Yet Paris has given her courage. She does not bow, does not retreat. Instead, she lifts her chin, letting the chandeliers crown her with light. As if to say, I am not ashamed of who I am. Tom Branson lingers at the edge of the ballroom, caught between two worlds. The Frenchwoman appears bold and radiant, her voice alive with fire as she challenges him with a simple truth. To love her is to walk away from Downton forever. Across the hall, Carson's disapproving gaze weighs on him like iron, while Mary's worried glance begs him to remember the family that made him one of their own. The music swells, and Tom feels torn in half, his heart straining toward a choice that will cost him something no matter which way he turns. Among the servants, Anna and Bates keep close, their smiles polite, but their eyes alert. They sense it, the tension rising like storm clouds above the glittering chandeliers. Anna's secret, Edith's whispers, Mary's letter. Tom's rebellion, so many threads are woven here, and each could unravel at the slightest tug. Bates, ever the protector, scans the room, ready to shield Anna. Though he knows even he cannot shield them all from the weight of truth when it finally falls. And then, as the clock strikes midnight, the waltz halts. A hush sweeps across the ballroom. The French nobleman steps forward, his voice carrying over the stunned crowd. He speaks of debts, of scandals, of truths long hidden. Faces turn, whispers rise, and suddenly, the Crawleys stand in the center of the storm. The ballroom, once a stage of beauty, becomes a court of judgment. The narrator's voice cuts through the rising noise. In Paris, masks may glitter, but they cannot last. Tonight, under the chandeliers, the Crawleys will face their reckoning. And in this final dance of truth and lies, someone will have to fall. The chandeliers still tremble from the echo of midnight scandal. The ball has ended, yet the Crawleys remain in its shadow. Paris no longer feels like the city of romance, it feels like a mirror. One that has forced each of them to confront what they cannot deny. As dawn rises over the Seine, the family and their loyal companions gather in silence, each weighed down by the choices they must now face. Lady Mary stands by the window of her chamber. The silver gown pooled at her feet like the ashes of a fire burned too brightly. She clutches the letter once meant to ruin her. But instead of despair, her eyes harden with resolve. Paris has taught her that hiding behind duty is no life at all. She makes her choice not for the nobleman, not for the artist, but for herself. She will carry Downton into the future, not as a prisoner of her title, but as a woman who dares to live. The artist's shadow fades behind her, yet the strength he awakened in her will remain. Lady Edith, long scarred by whispers, chooses a different kind of defiance. At breakfast, with eyes upon her, she speaks openly of her past, the child once hidden, the love once lost. The room stiffens, but Edith does not falter. Instead, she rises taller, declaring that her worth is not measured by secrets but by truth. For the first time, she sees the whispers scatter like smoke. She is no longer the woman Paris tried to shame. She is Edith's Crawley writer, mother, and survivor of every storm. Tom Branson, torn between love and loyalty, spends his final night walking the Parisian streets. The Frenchwoman waits for his answer, her gaze fierce, her hand reaching for his. Yet as he looks at her, then back toward the thought of Downton, he understands that his life is no longer his alone. He belongs to the Crawleys, as much as they belong to him. With quiet sorrow, he lets her hand fall, choosing family over freedom. His heart breaks, yet his soul steadies, for he knows his place is not in Paris, but at Downton's side. Among the servants, Anna and Bates find peace, where once there was only fear. The letter meant to haunt Anna is revealed to be a cruel trick, one with no true power. Bates vows that no shadow of the past will ever rule them again. Hand in hand, they walk the gardens of Paris at dawn, the mist curling around them like a benediction. Their love, though tested, emerges stronger proof that some stories, though scarred, endured. Carson and Mrs. Hughes, the silent watchers of the family's trials, share a look that says more than words. They know the world has shifted. The Crawleys they serve are no longer the Crawleys who left Downton. Change has come, and with it, a new era. Yet Carson straightens his back, ever the guardian, while Mrs. Hughes offers a smile that carries quiet faith. The family will endure, because love, whether in loyalty, truth, or sacrifice, has carried them through. As the sun crests the Paris skyline, painting the Seine in gold, the narrator whispers, resolution is never simple. In love, in family, in duty, there is always a cost. But for the Crawleys, Paris has stripped away illusions and left only truth. And in that truth, they find their path forward, however painful, however uncertain. Morning spreads across Paris, soft and golden, as if the city itself wishes to offer a gentle goodbye. The Crawleys stand together at the station, their trunks packed, faces calm, but shadowed with the weight of what has passed. Around them, Paris bustles, with life vendors calling, trains whistling, lovers partying with kisses. Yet for the Crawleys, this moment feels suspended, timeless. As though the city holds them in one final embrace before letting them go, Lady Mary gazes out at the skyline one last time, the Eiffel Tower cutting sharp against the morning light. She has chosen her path, though it is not without sacrifice. Her heart aches with what might have been, yet her spirit is steadied by the strength she found here. She whispers to herself, not for anyone else to hear, "Paris taught me courage." And with that, she turns away, ready to lead Downton into whatever future awaits. Lady Edith lingers longer, her hand brushing against the edge of a newspaper stand, where her name, once whispered in scandal, now appears in print with respect. Paris has given her the gift of honesty, and she carries it like armor. She looks at her husband and smiles, not the smile of someone hiding, but of someone finally seen. Edith boards the train knowing she leaves Paris not diminished, but renewed. Tom Branson watches the Frenchwoman from afar, her figure fading into the crowd. She does not look back, and neither does he. For all his longing, his choice is made. He belongs not to Paris, but to Downton. And though the decision wounds him, it also frees him. He lifts his daughter into his arms, pressing a kiss to her forehead, silently vowing that his sacrifice today is the foundation of her tomorrow.